What's up, the boys and girls? This is the Chris and Mike Show. I'm Chris. He's Mike, and with a special guest today, Scott Brierley from Canada, and he's going to chime in here and tell us what he's all about and what we're going to talk about. We're going to have a nice little fun episode for you. So, Scott, welcome to the show. Please entertain us.
Welcome, Scott. Thanks for coming
I'm
on.
Scott Brierley. I'm from Canada. I grew up close to Toronto, and now I live just outside of Vancouver.
Cool.
I've spent my life. It started out with a start. I almost got killed at 7 by a car. I got dragged 40 yards.
Okay.
And from there, it kind of went downhill for years. And
How did that happen?
Yeah, how'd that happen?
how
How'd
did
you
it
get that
happen?
car?
Well, I was one street over from where I lived, and I stole a girl's skipping rope, and she went to tell her mom, and I dropped the skipping rope and ran into the car. Apparently, that's how and then I got hung up on the car somehow and dragged.
Oh.
I had two
my
broken
gosh.
legs, broken arm, fractured skull, my lung collapsed, and a lot of head damage. And, I spent years of my life riddled with addiction and anger, and I could never figure out what was wrong with me. And I always stemmed it back to the accident and
Yeah.
thought maybe it's just head damage and I'll never get over it. And
Right.
his anger was pretty prominent, and I know a lot of people with head injuries, anger becomes a problem. And
Right.
so I was around 12-step programs for the better part of 40 years, and I've currently got 23 years in this year, clean and
Nice
sober.
job. I just passed 20 in
Congratulations.
February. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And Mike, we decided was about 15 or so.
Nice.
Yeah, probably closer to 17 now. Yeah.
Nice. So I was at 11 years again, and not again, I should say it. I was 11 years, and I got divorced from my wife, which was pretty traumatic. And
Sorry.
of course,
Now, was that kind of stemmed from the trauma you experienced as a child? Because obviously,
a little
I'm
bit, a little bit of both, right? A little
Okay.
bit of her because she was in recovery and she
Okay.
suffered from her own stuff, and I suffered, and then together we just were toxic.
okay, let's go back a little bit with your incident that happened when you were 7. How long did it take you to recover from that?
I'm gonna say probably a year. Like I remember, I even had to at 7. Or 8. I think I was by then. I had the humiliation of going from a 2-wheeler back to a trike, hanging out with
Okay.
kids that were younger than me because they wouldn't
Right.
push me.
Yeah. Okay.
And then
So-
I got
so-
back a year in school.
Okay. So with that post accident trauma and stuff, how does that turn into you becoming an addict? Was it something that you started at a young
Well-
age, started experimenting with painkillers or what? Get a paint a
No,
picture
I
so people
think-
can understand, bud.
I think what happened was, of course, in the hospital they had me wired on some sort of drug to keep the
Sure.
pain down.
Sure.
And then by the time I was 11,
Okay.
I had made my first geographical cure, not knowing it was a geographical cure. In grade 5, I was having so much trouble in the school I was in.
Right.
I came up with this idea, it might be better at a different school. So I got my
Okay.
parents to transfer me to a different school. And their age limit went up a little higher than what they went from. Instead of grade 6, it went to grade 8.
Okay.
So I went over there in grade 6, and of course grade 6 is where I found marijuana.
Okay, that's where I was leading to this, because you went from 7-year-old accident and all of a sudden I'm 23 years sober. We
Yeah.
we had the gap,
Okay.
buddy.
Good point.
Were
I
you
jumped.
diagnosed
good.
with like any kind of traumatic brain injury? Because I know
Nope.
that's pretty recent.
Nope.
Back then they didn't know about that.
No,
correct?
back then they didn't do anything. They just let you wild. And so, anyways, the last day of grade 6 in this
Okay.
new school,
Okay.
it had lots of problems.
Mm.
I was the kid that the teacher would go write lines or go to the office. I would stand up and go to the office and refuse to write the lines.
Oh, okay. You're,
Uh,
so you definitely had
my
a disconnect.
neighbor, like actually next door neighbor where I grew up, he was the science teacher. And all my life I called him Bruce.
Okay.
And he called me Scotty.
Yeah.
So I get to his class, and I didn't like being called Scotty in front of my friends because
Oh,
back then it was kind of gay or whatever. My
Right.
brother teased me, I don't even know. It doesn't even make sense today because
No.
I think Scotty sounds cool.
right. Yeah.
But so I get in his class, and he's calling me Scotty, so I kept calling him Bruce. And he goes, "You got to stop here," and he wouldn't stop calling me Scotty. So, anyways, I was kicked out of the class. That's how they dealt with stuff back then.
And this is in Canada?
In Canada, anyways.
Okay, yeah.
So fast forward to the day before sports day. I don't know if they have sports day in public school. And
Explain what sports day is, because we know this is a worldwide thing here. We're in 19 countries, so you gotta when you
sports
when you drop some when you drop
usually a half day to a 3/4
Okay.
day of school,
Okay.
and all you do is go to school and have fun. Like there's a little bit of track, there's balloon throwing, there's like tug of war. It's
I
just
think we had that in Arizona when I was in grade school.
Yeah, we
called
had similar stuff.
Yeah, we called it field day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh,
different.
they might have called it that. I just remember it as sports day. It was a long
Yeah.
time ago.
Yeah, very
no, you're-
similar.
Yeah, it's similar. Okay, now we understand what that is. Cool.
So, anyways, the day before that, me and a friend were down at this little creek, and we had to hold each other by the shoulders like this, and we were spinning each other around, trying to get each other wet, so we'd get in crap when we went to school. Well, no, it was pretty tragic. He fell down and landed on either a sharp rock or some glass, and they ended up having to bring stuff like tendons and stuff from here to get his hand working again.
Oh no.
Wow.
Well, that started one of the big another catastrophic. I was expelled from school. So, even though
you're playing with your buddy,
yeah,
and it was a pure accident,
yep,
and then they blame you and expel you.
yes.
Wow.
So then they sent me. Here starts the story of the shrinks and all this
Okay,
that
okay.
school was sending me to, and of course I was a rebellious kid, so I went in and
Right.
tried to shove the square peg into the round hole, and
Yeah.
was disobedient because I thought it was all BS.
Yeah.
So the next year they let me back in school, and in Canada, grade 7 is the first year you get to go in shop class.
Oh, right on.
Us too.
However, I didn't get to go.
Oh.
So they put me in special ed. I was the only kid in the classroom with one teacher. And I don't really know how long I was in this class for.
Okay.
Eventually got up and walked to the door, and as I've said before, I'm rebellious and I've been smoking lots of dope, and right from the gate I think the first week I was smoking marijuana, I was stealing money out of my mom's purse. That's how desperate I was for it.
Oh. Okay.
So I get up and walk to the door, and Miss Fraser, I don't even know how I remember her name because she's the only teacher's name I remember. And she gets up and stands in my way, and she goes, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "I'm going home." She's like, "No, you're not." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going home." I go, "You can call my dad. Just call him." And so I left.
No.
She called my dad, and my dad just calls the house 15. I was at home for 5 minutes because he knew how long it took to walk there. And he said, "I guess you're going to work tomorrow. Get your work boots." So he took me to work, and it was great.
Right on.
I need to actually backtrack a little bit on the story. The day the accident happened
Okay.
with Steve, I remember going home, and I was terrified. Like, I went right to my room, laid in my bed, and they called my dad, and my dad came home from work early, and he came in and talked to me and asked me what happened. So I
Right.
told him. And this is new for me because my dad would usually just lash out and
Beat your
smack
ass.
or spank me or beat me or whatever the term was back then. And
Right.
so he
Being
didn't
a,
do
he,
anything.
being he would just be a father back then, because you could be a father without any repercussions as long as you didn't
Well, no,
overstep
he
that
was
limit, right?
I would say he was a little bit further than a father. It stemmed
Okay.
on abuse. So
Oh, well, that's what. Okay, good. That's why I wanted to go with that. So okay, so
Yeah.
he crossed that line. So he took it too far.
with me, he was
usually.
I'm the youngest of 5. So with me, he was a little less than the rest.
Okay.
And by then he was kind of relinquishing control.
Okay.
So he leaves. I'm laying in bed, terrified because I'm going to get an ass whooping.
Right.
And so he comes back later and goes, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, aren't I in trouble?" And he goes, "It was an accident, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So, and that was the end of it. So I went to work.
That's cool.
So I worked for the rest of what the semester is, and I'm sure in the States and other countries they have different terms in school. And So the school decided to take me from grade 6,
Okay.
partly grade, like just that smidge of grade 7 in the special ed. Well, at Christmas time, I was in grade 9
Oh, wow.
in a special school where there was only 12 students. Here I am, 13 years old, in grade 9.
Right.
The closest person to my age was 16. Then there was a 17-year-old and an 18-year-old. I think there was only 13 of us.
Okay. Question. So from a development standpoint, are you the same height as these kids?
No, I'm smaller.
Okay, you're smaller, small,
Yeah.
scrawny kid, or what?
No, I'm fairly chunky.
Okay.
I've been pretty
Significant height difference, and then
Yeah.
obviously the intellectual part was off a couple years. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Okay.
they were all street smart because they've been doing what I've been doing for another 6 years or 3 years.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So I was there for that semester. And then the following year, they put me in regular high school in the shit disturber school in grade 10.
Wow.
Wow.
So
That's crazy.
I know. So how do you fit in? You don't. And how do you learn how to make friends? And you don't.
Right.
And
You don't. Yeah.
I was picked on severely that first year in grade 10. And I
can see
remember there
that.
was this guy, Phil Henry.
Okay.
He was the key tormentor.
Well, it's funny how you remember the bullies, right?
Oh, yeah.
And now, do we know what Phil's doing now?
No clue.
Okay,
I have
'cause
no
it-
connection with really anybody in the past
Yeah.
anymore.
My wife had one that used to always kind of like looks down on her and shit, and then so she found her on Facebook, and this chick legit looks like a horse now, and is just really hit every branch down the ugly tree in her life. She's kind of seemed to be all chaotic. Where
Isn't
you know,
karma
Nikki's-
great?
It is. It's fucking fantastic. You know, it's like she used to just tease the hell out of my wife, and now my wife's like 10 times more, probably 100 times more beautiful than this chick ever will be or was. And it's
And
just,
more successful.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
that's why I ask, because you always
Well-
want to know, like, did you randomly just, oh yeah, I ran into him and he's he's working at an Ace Hardware shoveling screws and shit.
Well, I did spend a lot of my life being a bully.
Okay, well that's because you were bullied, right? That's
Yeah,
the whole
and
thing.
I didn't know any better.
Yeah, yeah,
And I did what I was taught. So
right,
That's it. You emulate your environment.
right. Yep.
fast forward a little bit, like I bounced around from schools. At 15, my older brother used to beat me a lot, and I'll get
Okay.
into that a little later.
How much older?
He's 5 years older than me.
Okay.
Oh,
okay.
wow.
Is that your only brother? The only sibling?
No, I got three brothers and one sister, so 5 of us all
and,
together.
and where do you fall in that in the age?
I'm the
bracket?
baby.
Oh, whoa! You got.
Yeah, I'm the
sorry.
youngest.
Sorry. 4
Bummer.
older
And the
siblings.
toughest.
Yeah. Okay.
And
that.
I was voted in my family the most likely to spend the rest of my life in prison.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, anyways, at 15, the brother that beat me, I'm having a party at the house, and
Yeah.
my sister comes over and threatens to call the cops if the underage people don't stop drinking in the house. So I lost my shit, and me and my brother get into a fight, and
Okay. Like a
the
fist fight.
butcher brought out, and
Like a fist fight. Drop down. Drop
started
down.
as a fist fight, and then
Okay.
it turned to weapons.
Okay.
I was like, this guy has never beaten me again, and
That's cool.
so I ended up in juvie hall. So I'm the first
Oh.
kid that was ever kicked out of the house. Now I'm in juvie hall for getting even,
Right.
and my brain still can't function. It's still, I know I went overboard, but it
Yeah.
still can't quite.
You're not rationalizing the fact that you went overboard. Like your brain
Yeah, I
doesn't,
still
doesn't
can't.
recognize the fact that, okay, I went too far, even though you know you went too far.
Yeah,
You didn't realize you went too far, so there was no
Well-
empathy afterwards.
yeah. Even today,
Okay.
I still have a hard time with it because it's
Okay.
like
and that
all
all
I
this
can do-
and this is all stemming back to the trauma you experienced when you were 7.
Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. And
Well,
so now you're
there's a bit more than the trauma because, and I
Well,
mean,
yeah.
trauma is even a new thing too.
sure.
I mean, it's not a new thing, but they're actually
People
Look-
pay attention to it now. Right.
where
Right.
before they didn't.
Right.
So as we go forward, I'm a drunk. Like it,
Okay.
and then when I mean a drunk, I was the guy at the party that you might have seen that sat in the corner with one guy
Mm-hmm.
on beer cases and shared dope and shared
Mm-hmm.
booze and just got slaughtered.
Obliterated. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I found acid so you could actually do more
Yeah.
because of course more is always better.
Oh yeah, Mr. Brownstone.
Oh yeah.
Got to do a little condensed, little like wow.
Yeah. So at 15, I was court ordered to go to AA, and of course, I
Okay.
went to one meeting and went,
Right.
You can
Because
send me
you're,
back to jail.
because court ordering to AA works every single time.
Of course it does.
Especially at 15 when you go there, and the first meeting you go to, it's a father speaking, like a pastor father. And it's like, oh yeah, you want to send me to church? Nope. So by the time I was 17, I was in for the first time for myself.
Okay.
I stuck around for about 3 months. At 21, actually, I'll backtrack. Just after that little stint, I ended up in jail for the first time for robbing
so-
a 7-Eleven.
So how long are you in juvie for?
Oh, in juvie, I was in and out within a month or so.
Okay, so that was when you were 15.
Yeah, and I lived
Right.
in a group home for a
Okay.
bit. And then after I got sick, it's like I told you, I did what I wanted. And
Right. Right.
when I got tired of the group home, actually, I shouldn't say when I got tired of the group home. When
When the group got
smoking
tired of
weed
you.
caught up with me again, I knew I couldn't drink, but I could smoke weed, right?
Yeah.
When it
yeah.
finally caught up with me, I
Yeah.
told the group home to jam it because I was at
Okay.
legal age by then. I was 16. I could do what I wanted.
Okay, so in Canada, the legal age is 16.
yes,
Okay,
I
see,
don't
in
know
Amer-
about today, but back then it was.
Yeah. See, in America, it's 18's legal age. It's always been legal age. Now, as far as
Well,
drinking
no,
concerned,
not
you got
to
to be
drink.
21.
Not to drink.
Right. No, I know.
Make a decision where you're living.
Right. That's what I'm saying. In America,
Oh.
it's 18. You're legally an adult, not 16. So there's that gap, 2-year gap there. Right. That's why I asked that because, again, we're
Yeah.
16, but okay, gotcha.
So then I ended up back at home
Okay.
and back to normal. Then by then I was drinking, and of course, we all know where that goes when you're like, and that was my drug of choice was booze.
Okay.
So
Just beer or hard liquor?
everything. You
Okay.
put it in front of me, I drink it. I remember I went over to a friend's house one night. I was hammered when I got there, and she had this stuff she had made up. I
Okay.
don't even know what it was, but
Yeah.
and I loved it. So I went back over one time and I'm like, "Can you make that stuff again?" So she told me what to get. I got it, and it was like, oh my God, this stuff's gross.
Kind of like a jungle juice.
No, it might have been called a Black Russian because it was black and she had it on the stove and you drank it warm. I'm not,
Weird.
Ooh.
I don't really remember. It was a long
It was,
time ago.
it was just tasty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 19, I ended up in prison for robbing a 7-Eleven.
Okay, so back up. Let's what got you to the point of robbing a 7-Eleven?
Desperate, out of work, nowhere to really live.
Okay.
I wasn't quite
Okay.
on the street. My parents had split up. My mom wasn't living in downtown Hamilton and I was staying at her place.
Okay,
We've always had a volatile relationship and
gotcha. So,
So
even
back-
even the relationship with your mom was fractured, like it was your dad.
oh yeah, no, well, my dad's no, we weren't. It was never really fractured.
Okay,
For some reason, I could accept the violence from him.
okay,
It kind of stopped from. I think it was grade 10. I got drunk in school and I got caught for drinking.
okay.
And he showed up and he backhanded me, and I think that was the last time he hit me.
That was it. Okay.
Yeah, he backhanded me, and I told
now
him,
where to fuck off.
yeah, to fuck
Okay,
off.
so-
I walked
so-
the other direction.
So paint us a picture of your dad, and so big man, short man. You know what?
He's a bit taller than me. I'd say he's probably was 6 foot. He was a
Okay.
guy that he had short legs and longer arms, so he was he had a good reach when he backhanded.
And how tall are you?
Just 5'9".
Okay, okay. So he
was
had that.
husky. He worked in a welding shop, so he worked hard all his life, and
Okay,
he came
Okay.
from a rough background, like growing up.
gotcha. Okay, so you're 19. Your world's kind of just there, chaotic. You're an alcoholic. You're kind of bouncing around, and you decide it's a good idea to go rob a 7-Eleven.
Yeah. So I
Sounds
ended up
reasonable.
a high-speed chase on my motorcycle, and of course, when I got in Ontario, I think it's the toughest province for jail sentences. They gave me a deuce less,
Yeah.
and that's provincial here, where you got federal and provincial. I'm not sure what it's like in the States.
We kind of know we had it because we've had a couple
It would be
Canadians
like
on before.
federal and state.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did most of that, and then I got paroled at, I think I was inside for 13 months, and I got paroled. And
What was prison like in Canada?
Yeah, what was prison like in Canada? You gotta paint the picture, Scott. That's why you're here, man. You leave us hanging. Stop leaving us hanging, man.
at first, it was really scary.
Yeah.
And then, of course, after you adapt and the new habit becomes, it's not really scary. It's like habits,
Okay.
even today. They're all messy at the beginning, and
Yeah.
by the end, they're normal.
So was anybody try to intimidate you and stuff, being that you were what 19 years old, or were, I mean, like,
Not so much there because it was
Okay.
pretty. It was medium security. It wasn't maximum.
Okay.
I got into a few fights, and
did you go find the biggest guy and try to beat him up so everybody would leave
No,
so everybody
no.
would leave you alone?
no.
No.
But I will backtrack to the Phil Henry because I kind of got off track with him.
Right. Squirrel.
We're in a body shop
Okay.
in school because it was a trade school, and
Yeah.
I'm working on a door, and I
Okay.
put it on the bench. He comes
Okay.
over and takes my door off the bench and puts his door on the bench because, of course, he's my bully, right?
Right.
So I take his door off the bench and put mine back up because I'm done with this bully shit.
Yeah.
We end up in a fight in auto body.
Yeah.
The first thing he does because I'm winning is he sticks his finger in my eye. So it's like, oh, you want to stick your finger in my eye? So I jam mine, not even gently, jam it. So anyways, after that, of course, it gets broke up because we're right in class, right?
And then is it your fault? You get blamed again?
No, I didn't
Oh,
get
that's
blamed.
good.
We
That's
just
good.
split up. I mean, I did get blamed a lot for fights because I fought.
Sure. Okay.
And I'm sure, I can't remember his name, the auto body teacher. He was a pretty cool dude.
Right on.
So anyways, for the next week, Phil's going, "You're dead, Burley, you're dead." And of course, I got this fear in me because he's bullied me and I haven't.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, one day I'm in the cafeteria. I think it was Friday, and there's Thursday, and I'm dead on Friday, right?
Uh-huh.
And he's got his tray of food on him, and he's walking over, and he's being mouthy, and I walk over to him, and I pound the tray out of his hands.
Nice. I
And
figured
go-
that's where it's going.
If I'm dead on Friday, let's do it right now, you coward.
Nice.
Or whatever I said. So we ended up in a fight, but what happened is all the friends are his, right? I'm the youngest.
Yeah.
He's grown up with these guys.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
end up wrestling around outside, and all of a sudden his friends are stepping on my feet, so I can't do what I needed to do. But he never bothered me after that, is the point.
That's good.
And I learned a valuable lesson. It's like nobody's going to fuck with me again, and that's how I lived my life. And
That's the
which is
and
the
that's the,
detriment, because if nobody's going to fuck with you,
yeah.
you have no freedom.
Right, and that's one thing that I think I wasn't super bullied. There was a couple moments in my life, but nothing to your extreme. I don't know about Mike, but I think that
Oh yeah, similar.
I think on a whole, once you stand up to the bully and they realize that you're not going to be their little pawn anymore. That's that shift in life, right? Because now you got that ownership of it. You got a little more self confidence because you stood up to somebody that was fucking with you for so long.
I did the opposite of what you said. Obviously, I was never in prison, but I always made friends with the biggest guys I could find. And if you're friends with the biggest guy, nobody in between's going to mess with you, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Like, hey, that dude's I know I can't kick your ass, but he can, and he's rather fond of me. That's how I dealt with shit in life.
That's fantastic.
I don't know how old I was, but I remember this guy was bullying me. And my family would do nothing to protect you. And my buddy, Lenny's brother, seen this guy bully me and already stops it and actually told the guy to stand there while I punched him in the face a few times.
Right
And I
on.
remember thinking, yes, somebody's protected me. Because I didn't get that other than from
Yeah.
him. So, yeah. So fast forward to jail. Yeah, I got into a few fights and it wasn't very traumatic. And by the time I ended up back again the second time,
Right.
when I was getting ready to leave, you kind of acquire stuff in jail that makes you stay a little bit comfortable.
Okay. Like.
And this is the
Expand.
insanity of my
Expand.
thinking. I'm actually looking at spots there that I can stash all my stuff.
Okay.
So when I go back, I'll have all my stuff ready to go.
Oh.
All I got to do is get it.
Yeah.
So previous to this, though, I had been working, before I went in the second time, I had been working for these family. They were kind of the top of the food chain of the drug people in Hamilton, Ontario, and I won't
Okay.
mention any names, but I was just framing houses for them, and I end up in with the oldest brother. So he was really experienced in prison, and he had brought in lots of goodies for us to kind of spread out and make some money on, and
Okay. Like what
He's
kind of
like-
goodies? What kind of drugs?
just smokables like pot
Okay.
and a few pills and stuff.
Okay.
Nothing
Okay.
major.
Nothing. Okay.
And he, just before he got out before me. He's like, Scotty, I want you to call me when you get out and come work for me. And I'm like, well, I was working for you before I came in. He goes, no, work for me, not doing that flunky stuff. And this lady, I was going to AA meetings to look good so I could get out easier. And
Right.
this lady I'd remembered from one of my stints in AA, I remembered her, she was batshit crazy. And she came in to put a meeting on, and all of a sudden she's like in an AA meeting. And this lady's not batshit crazy anymore.
Oh.
It's actually making sense.
Yeah.
And whatever she did or whatever she said, I don't know what it was, but it inspired that maybe there's a chance for different for me.
Okay. And how old were you when this happened?
I was 19-ish.
Okay. And this is why you're in prison still.
Yeah, Guelph Reformatory. It's in Ontario.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Non-existent anymore, but so when I got out, she was from Hamilton too. So when I got out, I'm in Hamilton, and I started going to meetings, and
Okay.
you know, but there was things I didn't know, like I didn't know you weren't supposed to sell dope.
Nobody told me that was illegal.
Nobody told me that.
I missed that memo.
Well,
Is
that
that
had been your whole
wrong?
life up to that point.
So here I am.
That's the greatest line ever. Nobody told me.
I'm framing houses for my buddy, and he wanted me to be his foreman. And I go to him, well, like, if I'm going to be your foreman, I got to have a car.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he bought me a car, but he wouldn't put insurance on it. So I went and stole a license plate so I could drive it. So here I am on parole, selling dope. And it gets funnier. There was a meeting in Buffalo, New York, an AA meeting.
Okay.
It was on the reserve, and it was a wicked meeting. And I'm taking carloads of people in this car with no insurance from Hamilton, Ontario to Buffalo, New York. It was probably an hour drive.
Okay. Going to AA, mind you, listeners. So he's doing a positive thing in his life in a very creative, illegal way.
Baby steps.
Yeah,
Baby
it was
steps.
Baby
crazy.
steps.
I didn't grow up with, I just did what I wanted. So anyways, long story short, I got drunk again.
Oof,
About
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
a couple months into this, maybe 3 months.
As long as it wasn't while you were driving to AA meeting, crossing, borders. That's a good.
No,
thing.
no.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify.
So I got drunk again just one day.
Yeah.
And Cherie, this girl that I'd met, that she was really cute, but she was quite a bit older than me.
Okay.
And I was at a level, I'll backtrack before I got drunk. This is where my brain was. It's like I was dropping her and a friend of mine, Marlene, off at Cherie's apartment in the car with no insurance and no plates. And and Cherie goes, you want to come up for a tea? And I remember thinking, you want somebody as ugly as me to come up for coffee? Here's this cute girl, right? Like that's where my brain was.
Okay.
So anyways, I'll fast forward to the day of getting drunk. Well, Cherie was out on a bender too.
Okay.
And so I ended up over at her house later, and we were drinking together. And here's a girl that, and don't get me wrong, I'm not putting her down, but she was just a street girl. Like she did what you do on the street,
Yeah.
women do on the street. Like she sold
Survive.
herself.
She was in survival mode.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Complete
okay.
survival mode. And
Yeah. We had a guy on that has kind of a similar story, and he actually evolved into being a male escort for a while. So, yeah, it's believe me, we've heard the stories, man. We understand rock
yeah.
bottom. Mike and I are both again
I just
recovering
don't want to
addicts
put
like
her
you.
down because she was.
Oh, yeah.
No,
When
no,
she
no, no,
was
no.
sober, she was a great lady. So, anyways,
Yeah, we're just called
tells me
survival
I gotta
mode.
go so she can do her thing, and so I leave, and I'm going to my buddy Lenny's house in Burlington. Well, I get pulled over for an impaired,
Okay.
and you got to remember, I'm on parole again still.
Right. So this is now in America, if you get pulled over on parole, you're smack dab going back to jail. Same
Well, I
thing
was
in Canada.
supposed to be, but somehow the system didn't line up, and I think it was all the computer system wasn't as good as it is today.
Could be.
Technicality.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they let me out.
Okay.
I take a cab back to Cherie's house, and she's got a John there, which is
Yeah.
a guy paying.
Yeah. Got it.
So I make him pay for the cab. And then she goes, Scott, you got to go though. So I leave, and I go back to my mom's house where I was staying. And next thing I know, my sponsor's kicking me off. And a sponsor in AA is somebody that kind of helps you along
Right. Yeah.
and guides you.
Yep. Understood.
So I wake up to him kicking me on the kitchen floor and dragging me up and throwing me in the shower.
Nice. That's a good sponsor.
Yeah. And I come out of the shower and go to bed, and he's like soaking wet in my clothes still. And he drags me back and throws me in the shower, and he wouldn't let me go to sleep, and drags me to the noon meeting, and then drags me to a night meeting. And I remember even the night meeting, I spent most of it in the bathroom throwing up. And really, I think I had alcohol poisoning. So we end up at the coffee shop later where everybody goes. Cherie
Post
died.
meeting. Yeah.
Cherie had OD'd that night.
Oh.
Died.
That's too bad. Sorry with that
This
all
is
the
my
noise, Mike. You're gonna be
first
mad.
experience of death around the program.
Oh, so she died.
Oh, died. Yeah.
Oh,
no,
died. OD.
terrible.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we know people can OD without dying. So she actually just died.
Yeah.
That sucks. I'm sorry.
And it was pretty traumatic back then. And my determination to stay clean and sober. And I was going to work, and I would decide I'm getting drunk, and I would come home from work, and my friend Derek or Warren, one of them were on the steps of my house where my mom, at my mom's house, or
Okay.
they were on the couch waiting for me to come home from work, or I'd come home from work and get in the shower, and it's like, I'm getting drunk tonight. And I would
Yeah.
go downstairs, and one of them would be on the couch,
Yeah.
dragging me to a meeting. And we were all about the same, and
Okay.
same recovery time. And so I managed to get a year in. And then my older brother that I'd worked for in the past, he ran a framing business. He lived in British Columbia, and
Okay.
one that beat me. And
Yeah. I was gonna ask that.
he asked me if I wanted to come to work for him in BC. So I kind of dropped everything, and because I was working in a grocery store playing with fruits and vegetables, making minimum wage.
Right.
And looking back at it, it was one of the best jobs I had ever had. I wish I had stayed in that industry, because the people are more positive than on a construction site.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, most
Right?
definitely.
And
Yeah.
I believe you're a lot about what your environment is today.
Agreed. Yep.
So I get into the working for my brother again,
Right.
and of course I'm still angry, and the working for him is toxic, like it's always been, like our relationship, and it only lasted a short time. And
So he never changed.
no, and I hadn't changed much either. I hadn't done the steps. They didn't push the steps back then like they do today.
Yeah.
I
See,
know
when I
that's
when I went
crazy.
when I went, they had the steps and stuff on the wall. I never read the book. Like everybody you
Yeah.
got to read the book, and I just and you just met us, but I've preached every time we've talked about my sobriety as God didn't make me drink, so God didn't make me stop, and everybody in my AA meeting at some way when they would introduce themselves, hey, I'm Scott, by the grace of God I've been sober for 10 years, and I just kind of like, well, and I believe and everybody has their own version of higher power and stuff, but I just never was the mindset of I'm the one that made myself drink, so I'm the one that needs to make myself stop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do they really believe that, or are they just saying those words? You and I can't be people who just say words, right?
Right.
We have to mean what we say.
Yes, exactly.
I struggled with that for years.
Okay.
Years and
Yeah.
decades.
Okay.
So, but by now I've got a little bit of self-esteem, I think.
Okay.
And I'm not even sure if it was self-esteem now or if it was just
Growing
I've
up.
been fucked up.
Yeah.
So I'm in Maple Ridge, British Columbia, and I'm at this one-way club. It's kind of like an Alano club. It's a sober club, and
Okay.
there's this girl working behind the counter, and she's freaking smoking.
Oh yeah.
So for the first time in my life, I decide I want her.
Okay.
And of course, she's the sickest one in the room. But so by the time we were together, maybe 3 or 4 months, and by the time it split up, I was devastated when it split up because it was so good and the sex
Yeah.
was great and yada, yada, yada. And so I got drunk for a day after a year and a half sober and ended up in a recovery house, which was insane. Like, I look back at it and it's like I didn't really belong there. I don't function well in that kind of environment.
I don't think anybody does, man.
No. I mean, I believe a good safe house, but I think people need to kind of have a leash a little bit so they can screw up or excel
You need
or
to have a little bit of a boundary, a little bit of a
Yeah.
structure for it to be successful.
absolutely. So I managed to get 2.5 years clean after that
Okay.
before I got loaded. And once again, it was at the end of a relationship.
Right. So now you've been sober and clean 3 times?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
So
so you're
this
so
time-
typical alcoholic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this time I, instead of just going right back, it's like, fuck, I'm taking this to the end.
Okay.
And in that journey, there was another couple that were out on a bender, and of course, I ended up sleeping with her. And the buddy catches me, and I don't remember really much of it, but I remember when they caught us. I went to a friend. I only hit him 4 times, and my buddy's like, "What? You were doing knee smashes on his face on the concrete."
Oh no.
Like, I busted him bad. So, anyways,
And this was a friend?
apparently, I don't remember any of it, but
Wow.
like I remember this. Well, the reason he backhanded her
Okay.
and
Oh.
it set me off.
Yeah. Okay.
So I got clean and sober again,
Okay.
and
4th time.
4th time I got 6.5 years in.
Oh, you're making progress.
Yeah,
You're making every time you do it, you're making progress. So what goes
6
1.5,
times is
2.5?
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
So, and once again, at the end of a relationship,
Relationship, yeah.
got loaded.
Uh-huh.
So-
Now, okay, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask about you had mentioned you were divorced, but I'm sure you'll
No,
bring that
I
up.
haven't
later.
got to her yet.
Right. Baby steps.
I have no track record with women at all up
Apparently.
until they'd be like 2 years was max.
Okay.
And
I feel
so
the
at
pain.
6.5 years clean, I got loaded and I stayed out for a bit, and it was smoking weed, and that's all it was.
Yeah.
But I couldn't go back to meetings. So I went a year and a bit without going to meetings.
Okay.
And then I fell off some scaffolding at work, and the girl I was dating drank a little bit and smoked some weed. And so you know where this story's going.
Yeah, you went back to
Now
smoking
I'm
weed
in
and
pain,
drinking
and I'm
because
standing there. She's smoking dope with her 18-year-old daughter, and today's world is kind of acceptable, but back then it was kind of
yeah.
So I was like, "Oh, that'll fix the pain."
Yep.
Go off and running again, right?
But
And-
it did fix the pain.
Oh, it did 100%. Took the pain
Absolutely.
away.
Right.
Took the pain away.
And this was what
However,
year? What year was this?
Well, it would have been 24 years ago.
Okay, so 2020 or 2002. Right.
Yeah, 2000-ish, somewhere in there.
Yeah, because Mike and I we're big proponents on how the use of marijuana nowadays, because of all the things that it's good for, depression and anxiety and pain
Oh,
and all that kind of
100%.
jazz. But back then, like, oh, taboo, which is why I asked the question. It did take the pain away.
Yeah, the only
Yeah.
people that knew that it worked back then were the people
However,
who were
though, for
using it.
me,
Right. Only the people. Yeah. Only people that used it. What Mike said. Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, for me, smoking it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what that goes to in my brain? Yeehaw! Let's fucking party.
Because his
Okay.
brain's
Where my
broken.
brain goes.
Right. Because your brain's broken.
Yeah. Well, no, my brain's not broken. I disagree with that statement today. I
Okay,
used to think I was broken for years.
Okay.
just misaligned, and it's like,
Oh, that's a better way to look at it. Okay.
right? Because I think if we keep telling ourselves negative stuff, we're only believing negativity, and we're only going to go down that rabbit hole.
I agree with you. Yeah, I don't mean broken in a
Years
negative
going
way.
down the negativity rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So fast forward a year, or no, I get loaded after being a year's clean again. And I think it was about 3 months. And within 3 months, I went from smoking that one joint to smoking a quarter ounce a day. And so then I go get my hair cut by this girl that's in recovery, and she's like, and I watched her walk in, and she's 6 years clean now, right? And she's smoking hot too, but she goes, how's it going? I'm like, eh. She goes, well, maybe you should get a sponsee. And I start laughing, and I'm like, maybe I should get some clean time first. Well, of course, she's cute and smoking hot. She talked me into going to a meeting that night.
Sure.
So I went to the meeting, and I decided I was going to try and stay clean again. This is Narcotics Anonymous now. And
Okay.
I'm going to stay clean. And I made it a week, and I had a big yelling match with somebody on the phone, and I hadn't cleaned the paraphernalia out, and I had a hash pipe sitting on my desk.
Right.
And I get stoned, and then I go to the meeting, and I see Leslie, and I haven't seen her since the night of the haircut, like the meeting after the haircut. And she's, oh, so how long have you been clean now? So I'm sarcastically look at my watch, and I went, 45 minutes. Aren't you embarrassed? You should like, and I'm like, no, because I don't know if I want to be here or don't want to be here.
Yeah.
That was the last time I used,
Wow.
2003.
So what was
Nice.
the epiphany there?
Desperation,
Okay.
pitiful demoralization. I had bought and lost my first house, and she kept it, and
Right.
just everything. Like I had lost everything, and so I went to meetings, and when I would asked to share, I would go, I don't even know what I'm doing here. This shit just won't work for me.
Yeah.
I've been here, done that, and I just kept coming. And the area I lived in had a couple of recovery houses that I've been through, so I was already banished from them.
Right.
And because if you don't do it their way,
Oh yeah.
you're not welcome.
Yeah.
So I go to this ball tournament. It's a clean and sober ball tournament in Penticton, BC, and I think I was a year and a half clean, not really wanting to be clean, really going to get loaded. And
Sure.
in fact, that trip I went for a ride on the bike and was going to get loaded, and somehow decided to go back to the event. And I drive up to my buddy's big RV, and there's this hot chick there that
Of course there is.
my soon-to-be wife. And, you know, we spent 11 long years together.
Okay.
And at first it was fantastic. And
Yeah.
from her trauma background and my trauma background,
Yeah.
our friends could set their calendar. Yep, they'll get along for these 3 months, and they'll be fighting for these 3 months. And that's
Okay.
how pretty much our relationship went. And
For the whole 11 years?
pretty much.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And even when we got married, it was like, by the time we got married, I knew we were making a mistake,
Ah.
but I still went forward with it. And, you know, we had bought a house together with her mom, and it went south pretty fast with her mom and her mom's boyfriend because he was a drinker. And we ended up buying him out, and my wife became, ironically enough, was the programs manager in the Mission Federal Institution.
Wow.
So, you know, we kept attempting to do all the right things, and we went to counselors, and we went to coaches, and made a few side trips. Like I went to Mexico once for a month and a half because I didn't want to be in the relationship anymore. And
But the whole time you're not drinking, which is good.
Yep.
Which is
Yep.
good.
we're
Because we
not-
know from your story so far, you like hot chicks, and when the relationship gets fractured, then you start drinking.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
fact
Well,
that
no,
you
when
haven't,
when it
Right.
ends,
Yeah.
I look back and I had no
Yeah.
emotional stability,
right,
none.
right,
However, when I first got clean again,
yep,
I had this sponsor and I started dating first day. And usually I would wait 2 years or a year living in that pain of the last relationship before I would even step
well, and
out.
yeah, and a big thing with AA and NA, I'm sure both are the same, is your sponsors don't want you in a relationship for at least a
No,
year of being sober and clean.
which doesn't make sense.
Well, it doesn't. But think about it, though. It does, because every time your relationships ended, you went back to drinking. You relapsed. So if you
However,
have a full solid year of sobriety underneath your belt, which means
yeah.
now your mind's clear, you're thinking properly, you have new habits in place, right?
But
Then
when
you,
you,
but then you can venture into that because you should be strong enough and grounded enough to pursue a relationship.
however, though, when you've done that cycle
Right.
4 or 5 times, you need
Sure.
to try to work a different, like the
Right.
same lock doesn't open, or an old key doesn't open up a new lock.
True.
So, and the friends that had known me for years supported what I was doing, and I started dating right away.
Yeah.
And I made a decision. Every lady that I dated, I was going to treat better and learn from my previous one.
Which is how you should do it. I agree with that.
Yeah. So fast forward with Shannon, and it was pretty toxic. And it was actually at a point towards the end, she was like, "I want a baby," and we're seeing this counselor coach, and Shannon gets up to go to the bathroom, and the counselor goes, "Don't get her pregnant." And I'm like, I'm not. So eventually, seeing this lady, Shannon brings up, I want a separation. And I'm like, now we're both 11 years clean. And
Right.
So I'm angry, been angry for a long time. And I'm like, well, get the fuck out of my house then.
Yeah.
And Shannon's like, and looks at the coach or Diane, and Diane's like, well, you want the relationship over, so yeah, leave. So Shannon leaves, and the house, we didn't really have much into the house as in like value wise.
Right.
So we couldn't sell it. So I ended up with the house, and I'm a stonemason, and I've been a stonemason for years and ran my
Nice.
own business, and
Right on.
traffic was getting really bad. So I decided to get out of it and get the Band-Aid ticket like an EMR, emergency medical responder, and go to work in the oil fields. And that lasted for a little while, but of course Scott showed up, right? And when Scott shows up, chaos shows up.
Right.
And so I ended up coming back, and I get a phone call from a buddy of mine, and he's a Teamster in the movie 155 movie division. And I ended up in the movie division, and it was pretty cool. I was making better money than I've ever made. Like 1 year, I made freaking $234,000.
Nice.
What? I'm pretty much a high school dropout. I have my
Yeah.
grade 12, but so somewhere in there during COVID, I had finally got myself out of debt and I wasn't struggling, and then COVID hit. And by the time COVID was over, actually, I'll backtrack a smidge. I'm in the movie business, and I decide I'm going to stretch my comfort zone, and I want to go to, it's called GF Strong. It's a hospital in Vancouver. It's their back and spine and head injury stuff.
Okay.
Because now new stuff's coming out about head injuries, right?
Right.
But I need a family doctor to refer me. So I get this family doctor, and I go to the family doctor, and the first thing he says is I start every patient off with the physical so I know where we stand.
That makes sense.
So he calls me up and goes, you need to come in. I think you got prostate cancer.
Oh.
Oh my God.
So I'm 50 years old, out of a relationship for a couple of years, and I go see him, and he does the check, and he goes,
Sure.
I need to refer you to a specialist. And I go to the specialist, and she's a female, and it's like, great, at least she's got small fingers. And so she does another test, and I go, so what do you think? And she goes, well, from looking at the results from your doctor, I'm pretty sure you got cancer. So she does the next test, and I'm at work. It's a Friday night, and she calls me and she goes, "Yep, you got prostate cancer." So within, I'm going to say 3 months, I had the operation of a radical prostatectomy where they cut the prostate right out.
Ouch.
And of course, it affects every fiber of your manhood.
Mm-hmm.
I was wearing diapers and pads, and of course, I'm in debt, so I got to go to work no matter what. And I'm angry and I'm belligerent.
But still clean and sober.
Still clean and sober.
See?
What year was this?
I was 50. I'm 57 now, so that would be
2018?
2018?
Yeah.
yeah,
2018?
something like that.
Okay.
So I'm still clean and sober, and really, I want to just kill myself every day.
I could see that.
And I have no desire to live.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, I'm toxic, and every show I was on, I was toxic and getting a really bad name and
Now, what were you doing in the movie business? What was your gig there?
transportation.
Okay.
I was driving big trucks. I was looking after the Star Wagons.
Okay.
I've worked with Charlize Theron.
So all the behind the scenes stuff, basically.
Yeah, all behind the scenes stuff. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Good money. It's a pretty toxic environment because you got a whole bunch of Neanderthals like me that have basically a high school graduation and a truck driving license, and that's where they come from, is the driving world. And
Yeah.
so everybody, you go from the driving world and you're making 200 grand a year.
Yeah.
Everybody's cutthroat and ratting on you. And
Yeah.
one day I'll go back to work there, but I want to get this still a little bit more clearer and less reactive than it is.
Sure.
So I'm dealing with the pissing myself, and 2 years into this, I finally get to the point. I call the doctor, and I go, I need to talk to the doctor. And in Canada, when you're referred to a specialist, all they do is your call goes right to an answering machine. So I just kept calling back and calling back and calling back and calling back and calling
Yeah.
back. They finally answered the phone, and I said I wanted to talk to the doctor, and well, the doctor doesn't do that, and they hung up. So I called back, and so I insisted on talking to the doctor, and I lost it on the doctor about the condition because she told me I might have some incontinence.
Okay.
And for those people like me that didn't really know what incontinence was when she
Right.
said some incontinence, it's holding your urine in or
Sure.
not pissing yourself.
Yeah.
Sure.
So she goes, well, if I had told you the truth, you wouldn't have done the operation. And so now doctors are lying to me.
Wow.
So my trust factor in this world is like almost
Nothing, yeah.
zilch people. And
Mm-hmm.
so then she goes, at that point, she goes, there's a surgery we can do that can correct it. And I'm like, well, I'm not quite ready for that yet because I don't trust you. So it took about 6 months or 7 months to be able to become okay with the surgery they were going to do. But in the meantime, I got diagnosed with diabetes.
Oh, wow.
Because, of course, you know what they preach in AA.
Mm-hmm.
If you have the obsession, eat junk food, eat sugar, eat this, and we promote unhealthy stuff. Because that's unhealthy.
Yeah, see, mine wasn't so much that when the ones I went to and the way I go is it wasn't like, hey, let's shift the addiction. It's just I found my addiction from drinking to working out and exercise and things like that. But it was never anything, it didn't come out. I don't, it could be different in Canada, but here there was no talk about how to replace your addiction. It was more just this is like-minded people. We're going to help you walk, baby step through your addiction recovery, things like that, and
More of an accountability.
more of accountability. Yeah. It wasn't like, hey, let's replace the addiction with another addiction because that's not healthy either.
No.
Although I can see
It's
how
more
some would
AA
do
that says that, not quite so much NA. But
Right.
so I end up having the operation. Well, actually, when I had the radical prostatectomy, I'm so terrified of getting loaded because I know I'm close.
Right.
I did it with no medication.
Good.
And my opinion on that's changed a little bit today. However, so fast forward, I get this new contraption that helps me to stop peeing, and even in there, just before the operation, I'm so desperate. I finally go to this 3-day self-development class.
Okay.
And you got to remember, I want to go home and put a gun in my mouth every night.
Right.
Now, Canada's actually even given me the right to own a gun. So I have a gun in my closet
Wow.
in the state. So I do this course, and Sunday rolls around, and I didn't really get much out of it. They kind of just teach similar stuff as the 12-step teaches.
Right.
And how dare they try and upsell me to the next course? So I belligerently walk out angry, which was my normal state, and I go to put my leg over my motorcycle, and I got a 2015 Harley,
Okay.
and I think this was in 2016 and 2017 maybe, and this light bulb goes on. You want to go home and kill yourself. If your bike mechanic, Chuck, told you you needed to put $5,000 into your motorcycle tomorrow, your credit card would be out in a heartbeat, so you would have your therapy.
Mm-hmm.
What is wrong with you
Yeah.
investing in you? This is where the story starts to get pretty cool. So I walk back in and I pay for, begrudgingly, pay for the course.
Yeah.
And for the next few weeks or months, it was like, what did you do? But the cool part, I work in the movie business, so I can have any time off that I want. The course is in San Francisco. I have a waiver now, though, so I can legally go to the States.
Okay.
The course is in San Francisco. So it's like, I'll go for a week after, or a week before, a week after, and make a good holiday of it, and have 3
Sure.
weeks to do this 1-week course, and COVID comes along and screws
Yeah.
that all up. I can't go. I was scheduled to go just as COVID hit.
That
Oh,
sucks.
man.
Did they Zoom it? Did they go online?
Nope, no
Oh.
online stuff.
Wow.
So fast forward into COVID, they shut the movie business down. I got another or job, and
Yeah.
that's when I got the diabetes. So fast forward again, they actually bring the course, they open up the borders a little bit,
Yeah.
and coaches can get, or the facilitators can come to Canada.
That's cool.
So they come to Canada, and it's in Alberta, in this ranch. It's way out in the bush, and no, not that there's bush in
Right.
in
We
the-
get what you mean. Yeah.
So I go, and by then it was kind of begrudgingly, because I'm leaving a job where I'm making almost $3,000 a week to go do this course, and I'm taking 2 weeks off work, so I'm losing $6,000. And I go to the course, and the day going there, COVID restrictions are still there. I'm driving from my buddy's house to the course, which is like 4 hours, and you got to remember, I'm still really angry, and
But you're sober and you're clean.
I'm sober and I'm clean. And by now, I think I was 16 years clean, 17 years,
Which is good.
pretty sustainable. And I know I just can't, I can do anything else, but I just can't use. I know that.
Yeah.
That track
That's-
record beaten. And
Right.
so I got to go to the bathroom and not just stand on the road and pee. I got to go.
Yeah, you got to go.
Nowhere will let you in to use their bathrooms. So by the time I get to this rendezvous where they were going to follow everybody into where the ranch is,
Sure.
I'm belligerent. And so we end up at the course, and for some reason, after this belligerency of the first day, I freaking show up.
Yeah.
And we do this one exercise, and we're put on the silent treatment, and we're supposed to go back and write our hopes, dreams, and goals. And another one of these big epiphanies. And I wrote this limp dick stuff down, like the Pat stuff that I always written down. And
Right.
I had just had the operation, so I wasn't peeing my pants anymore. And I go to bed, and we're on silent, so we can't talk to anybody. And I wake up in the morning, and I'm like, you fucking ripped yourself off again. Put some shit on that paper that you really want.
Yeah.
And the first thing I want, and for my generation, and I don't know about you guys, but when you call your wife a partner, it goes back to the days of what only gay people called their partners.
Right.
Right.
Not, and
Yeah.
today I've changed that. Like I could give a rat's ass what you do or who you are or what.
We're all
But
in
anyway,
the same boat there.
Yeah.
So that morning I get up and we're doing these high ropes exercises this day. And there's this guy, Felipe, changed my life forever. He's at the bottom and he asked me a question. He goes, what's your top hope and dream? And I said, I want a partner. And he goes to me, what are you going to say to her when you wake up in the morning? I said, I'll roll over and say, hey, babe, I love you.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, why don't you one-up it? And in my brain, I'm thinking, are you a fucking moron? How do you one-up I
Yeah.
love you?
Yeah.
And he goes, why don't you roll over and go, hey, babe, how can I love you today?
Oh, that's nice.
That's awesome.
Because coming from where I come from, what do I know about love?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know a lot about hurt and pain,
Sure.
but not about love.
That's cool.
So then I get up to the top of the ladder, and there's this girl there that had been serving us food when we eat. And she goes, can I say something to you? And I'm like, okay, sure. She goes, you remind me of the elephant in Ice Age 2, the father. And I'm like, I've never seen it. I don't have kids, so I've never seen Ice
Oh, the
Age.
mastodon. The
Yeah.
mastodon. Yeah. Okay.
He goes, well, there's this part in the movie where the lava field's blowing up and his family's over there needing help. And he's just barreling through all the lava field to get to his family. And all his friends are going, go left. And he's going right.
Right.
He reminds me of you. And now this lady had no, she wasn't in any of the classes we had. She wasn't in any of that. She just served me food.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
So I tell a few people what happened that night, and I start looking around, and it dawns on me that this is a religious resort.
Oh.
And people are like, when I start telling them, I just realized they go, you didn't notice the stuff on the walls? And it's like, I don't notice stuff like that. I don't pay attention enough. So the course was absolutely amazing and transforming, and I stood up, and when the coach ripped my shit, I took it, and
Yeah.
ironically enough, it was kind of funny. There was 39 of us, I think. Part of the thing was they wanted us to all line up in how much we made the year before.
Okay.
I was the second person to the top.
Nice.
And I don't say that arrogantly.
No.
How much self-esteem acquired? Because I would look at you and go, oh, you're a lawyer. You must make way more than me.
Right,
You must be
right.
way up there."
Sure.
And it wasn't about humiliation, but it was about so people could change. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so on the last day, this lady that had been we had a few dinners together, but because I'm in the program, it's like this sort of area is, you don't touch, you don't go anywhere, you don't. So she goes to me, I went to her, I said, I thought this went till Sunday. And she goes, so did I. And she goes, I don't have to be back to Calgary till Sunday night, and this is Saturday. And I said, so I guess we're going out for dinner today. So we went out for dinner that night, and we've been together ever since, and
Nice.
we've been married for 3 years this year.
Congratulations. That's
We're
awesome.
Married 11 months from the day we walked out of this course.
Nice.
And we did a few other self-development classes with the company, and once again, it's like Scott doesn't mesh well with people that aren't quite straight up. And the coaches and the facilitators were great, but their office politics were a little shady. And
Sure.
So I don't have a whole lot to do with them anymore, but I also don't have to bash them, which is a cool part.
Yeah.
Where I would have been naming their company and I would have been bashing them but I guarantee anybody could go do the first 2 courses and gain huge knowledge about themselves. So on the last course we did with them, it was a goal setting course. We ended up, I set a goal to go to Thailand for 6 months. And I just had some friends that go there and it was kind of on the whim. And I'll backtrack just a smidge. During this course, it was a crazy course and it was held in Alberta and it was 3 months long. I made the decision not to go back to work and focus on this course for the 3 months. And by the end of the course, I decided I wasn't going back to work. And because of the house that I own close to Vancouver, I sold it and I moved up north where I live now. And now I own 3 properties. And that's kind of how I live, is off rental income.
Okay.
So Lisa and I are getting along great. And we are implementing every morning, how can I love you today?
That's cool. I like that.
And at first it was uncomfortable and messy. And about 4 months into this, it's like, you know what? I don't know if I lived up to my expectations. So I kind of asked, we started the thing every night. Did we live up to our commitment today?
Oh, that's cool.
That's cool too.
I have one of the, I won't even say one of the best relationships.
Right.
I have a partnership with somebody that I never knew could ever exist.
That's awesome.
And so now we live together in Ashcroft, BC, and the first trip to Thailand, Lisa decided she was going to write a book.
Nice.
And somehow she's inspired me to write a book.
Right on.
And I wrote my book. It's called My Perfect Storm.
There you go.
Congratulations. That's awesome, man.
And
Now-
it is
now-
an Amazon bestseller. However, somehow through emails, I kind of not screwed up the Amazon bestseller part, but I got kicked off Amazon. We haven't been able to correct it yet.
That's Amazon.
Yeah, I know.
So where can people find your book?
At Scott, she changed Scott at Forward Walking Choices, and we can email him a book.
Okay.
Today I'm a life coach, crisis recovery coach. I
Okay.
help people to inspire their lives because I look back at my track record in AA and I struggled for so many years till I started finding some footing and direction.
Sure.
And since I wrote my book and doing some of the courses, I went down. Have you guys ever heard of Dr. Amen?
No.
No.
I haven't.
He's one of the leading ADHD experts in the world.
Okay.
He actually does brain scans. Your brain, and then diagnose you from your brain. And he's done so many that he can diagnose pretty well.
Okay.
And I skipped actually a good portion of dealing
Is
with
this is all this in the book?
Yes.
Okay, so don't share all the
Oh
stuff in
no,
the book
the
because
ADHD stuff isn't in the book. That's going to be in my
yeah.
next book.
Yeah, because we want people to read your book. That's yeah. So don't give us all the details because then there's no reason to buy it.
Yeah. I dealt with my trauma before that, and then
Okay.
now I stepped it up and went and diagnosed with ADHD, and that was one of the clinchers that changed my life as well. Getting put on some medication and
Sure.
a whole lot of supplements. I used magic mushrooms for my trauma therapy.
We just had a guy on that did the same thing. He used magic mushrooms that got him to stop drinking and kind of kept him on the sober path.
Yeah, I know a few people like that. I'm an advocate for the new medicines that are out there.
As am I.
Yep.
I don't believe I believe in complete abstinence if you're using it to just to dull this down. But if you're using it for pain, if you're using it to help your trauma or your depression,
Right.
I don't know. I'm in the middle of writing a different book. This book is fantastic. However, I want to get more of my healing journey.
Good.
This is a little bit of some of it I look back because of the ADHD stuff and what I've
Right.
learned about it. Some of it's still the blame game.
Sure. Oh, of course.
And
Well, when
we're
you're
all-
when you're telling your story, I mean, every time you broke up with somebody, that was your excuse to start drinking.
yeah,
So right there, you had to have a reason to drink, and your reason to drink was, well, that didn't work out, so fuck it, I'm going to drink.
yep.
Right. So there was those innuendos of blaming going on. Right.
And today, my life, I can't even believe I have the life I have today.
That's good. That's awesome.
It's
I
like,
feel the same way. I think Chris does too. When you're an addict, you don't realize that there's this life on the other side. You just can't imagine it.
well, and sometimes it's not even just drugs or alcohol.
Right.
We're addicted to the anger and the chaos and
Yep.
and not knowing what to do. Like I spent years, I don't know what to do. It's just do the steps again.
Right.
You just haven't done the steps right.
Right.
And that's kind of why I'm an advocate for this, because it's like, if you got to tell somebody they haven't done the steps right, there's something wrong with that.
Well, and see, that's where I go back to that too. Like, I never read the big book, and did I do the steps? Yes, but I didn't wrap my entire life around that process. Because to me, when I got my chip, that was the thing that got me through it. Because I realized, okay, I got a 24-hour chip, and I got a 30-day chip. But if I can't get the 30 days, I have to give them back my 24 chip. If
Well,
I can't
one
get
thing
the
you-
60. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Well, no, sorry, man. One thing you and I agree on, and I think you're saying it right now, is you have to be the one to want to change.
Yes.
Somebody can't tell you you're an addict.
No.
It's kind of like your court-ordered AA when you're 15. Yeah, that's gonna work.
Yeah. Nobody has somebody standing in front of them going, "You're fucking your life up," and they go, "Oh yeah, you know what? You're right." That rarely happens. It maybe one out of a million people
Yeah.
go, "Okay, you're right." Most
Yeah.
people say, "What business is it of yours? You know, I'm fine. I'm doing okay."
Yeah, and see, I'm kind of an exception because I was told I had a problem, but I never tried to stop because I was told I had a problem. It took my moment of like, oh boy, something's got to change for me to change that. But then when
That's my point exactly.
right, so it was so significant of a moment for me that the next day, literally, I woke up, something's got to change.
As
and then
was
I never,
mine. I was gonna die.
Right, and so never look back. But there are, like we talked earlier, you're kind of the stereotypical alcoholic where you're constantly trying to stay sober, fall back, two steps forward, one step back, so the fact that now you're over 16 years clean and you have a beautiful life and a beautiful wife and you have targets and things you're going after, like writing another book, that's fantastic, man.
Yeah.
That's great turnaround in your life,
And-
especially because you were suicidal
Yeah.
and you didn't want to be here. So that's another thing as well, that you didn't succumb to that depression, because then you wouldn't be sitting here talking to us, man.
I've attempted a few times over the
Sure.
years.
Okay. Most people, in that state of depression at some point in time do, for sure.
Yeah. We also, my wife and I do a podcast. It's called Soulmates and Suitcases. It can be
Okay.
found on Spotify and YouTube.
Nice.
I think on YouTube it's called The Brearleys.
Okay.
And we have a coaching business,
Cool.
and we travel the world and have
Right
fun.
on.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, that is awesome. So we have all your links. I shared them with Mike. And for when we drop the episode, we'll put all that stuff on there as well so people can find you. And then we'll go cross, like, subscribe, things like that. And you'll do the same for us. Now, do you have stuff on Facebook, Instagram as well?
Yeah, mostly Facebook I deal with. I got accounts on Instagram and stuff. I haven't quite ventured into that. It's
Yeah, you're
kind of
fine.
the age gap, but
Yeah, we have one on Facebook. We're found on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, obviously, and all the podcast platforms. We're working on putting together a website. So we'll have.
yeah, we got a website, forwardwalkingchoices.com.
Cool. Yeah, and did you send me all that? I know you sent me
No,
something.
I
that
haven't.
Okay,
You
yeah,
know what?
send
I'll
me.
get my wife to send you all the stuff because she's got it all put together. And
Perfect.
send me your email though.
I
don't
will.
think you sent it.
I will. Yeah, I'll send you the email.
This has been fantastic, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for having me
Yeah.
on.
Thank
So
you
let
for
it-
doing it. Thank you
yeah,
for
so-
sharing your story, man.
Yeah. So since we're still live on YouTube, share again how people can find your book. The My Perfect Storm is what it's called. The author Scott Breyer.
Forwardwalkingchoices.com.
Say again.
Forwardwalkingchoices.com.
Forwardwalkingchoices.com, where you can find his book. Right on, man.
And invest in yourself because
Yes.
nobody else is going to.
Great. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing that you'll probably like this, one of the things that we do every time we wrap up a show, because Mike and I have both been affected by somebody who's taken their own life, and you tried it several times, is don't let the bad days win, right? Somebody's going to miss you. Somebody loves you. You don't create that hole in somebody's heart tomorrow morning because they found out you're gone, and they could have helped, talk you through the chaos you're going through.
Well, and I don't think we've had a better example on this podcast than Scott right here. He just said, I'm living my best life. Had he taken his own life, he would have never known this was a possibility, right? So kudos to you for
absolutely
being happy again. I've been on both sides of life too, where I was miserable, and I wake up every day and I'm grateful I'm still here. So
yeah, and the way you wake up in the morning, the way you go to bed at night, I love those two things, man.
I do too.
Those are powerful, dude. Powerful.
And that's why we do this.
Well,
We
do
both
it
just
every
pulled that
morning.
away today.
Still probably 3 mornings a week we do it. And
Yeah, but still.
then some nights, sometimes we just go, did I fulfill my commitment to you today?
Yeah, no, that's cool, dude. That's really cool.
Because how do you keep a relationship? Like, you look in this world today at the track record of relationships.
Yep.
Now, unless you cherish the relationship, to me, it's going to go away.
Yeah. Well, people don't want to put the work in. Like my wife and I have been together 30 years, and there's little caveats. There's little caveats I drop. Number one, you got to have separate comforters, because then you're not dealing with other Jimmy legs.
Yeah.
And then you just know your roles. Like, I load the dishwasher and unload it usually, and she does the laundry. I do all the outside maintenance stuff. She takes care of the inside stuff. So there's the dynamic that you find with your partner, spouse, whatever you want to call it. And then obviously you communicate and you're open and honest with everything you do.
That's the big one right there.
That's
Right.
the big
Talking.
one.
Right, talking, because and then you tell them,
Here's how I'm feeling.
right, and then you obviously hey, I love you. It's not just a random thing. You don't we just don't give flowers on Valentine's Day and Mother's Day. In fact, we don't do shit on Valentine's Day because we don't feel like we have to. Because there's flowers randomly showing up. I came home yesterday. There's flowers on the island.
Nice.
But that's just how we are, and that's how I think more and more people need to understand relationships are work. And if you're not willing to put in the time, then, what are you here
However,
for?
though, is it work?
Well, you
or-
know what I mean. It's
Yeah, like, I'll use this for an example.
Okay.
Last week we had a friend over,
yeah,
and we got an espresso machine, and a lot of people don't know how to use it. So I make them a coffee with the espresso machine.
sure.
Lisa's in having a shower, and I know she wants a coffee, but I've already made two coffees in a row, and I just want to sit down and enjoy my first coffee. So really, I kind of begrudgingly made her a coffee
Right.
because I didn't want to do it. But obviously, I must have wanted to do it. My brain was just telling me I didn't want to do it, and I wanted to be lazy.
Right.
But I
Right.
took her the coffee and snuck it into the bathroom and put it on the counter. Not snuck it in, but
Well, yeah.
and,
But I think that's an example of what Chris just said.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
making the extra effort that you
Right.
normally wouldn't have done unless it was that person, right?
And it's
I'm not
because-
doing that for anybody else except this person.
yeah.
Right. So the word work may not have been the right choice of words.
Yeah.
No, I know
but
what you
it's, But it's just engaging in the other person's life, knowing those little nuances that will make their day because you
Yeah.
took the effort to do so.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she changing it to how you said it that time makes it sound so positive.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
It's like,
There you
yeah.
go. Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll make that middle note too, man. Engaging with the other one instead
Yeah.
of work. Yeah. I got you.
Anyways,
Right on, man.
gentlemen, I got to get to work on my
Cool.
rhino that I'm doing in the basement.
Right on, bro.
Thanks very much. And
Thank you,
let's
Scott.
do this
Yeah.
again.
Thanks
Yeah,
a lot,
absolutely.
man. Really
When
appreciate
you
it.
when you get ready to drop your next book, reach out and we'll get you back on.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
I'll get Lisa to send you the stuff. You can probably get her on for a
Okay.
podcast too.
Cool. Yeah.
We
right
would
on,
like
man.
to do that as well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. You guys have a great day, man.
All right.
you
Have a
too.
great day.
Thanks, Scott. See you.